Welcome to College Prep Confidential, empowering your student with the elite tools they need to get accepted to their dream university. Discover test-taking blueprints from Ivy League professionals, financial aid secrets to get more money for school, and mindset tips for a better college future. Now please welcome your host, Don Sevcik.
Thanks for checking out episode 16 of the College Prep Confidential podcast. Today, we're channeling Tabloid Magazines and the secret behind selling books and publishing products. Now, this secret reveals the title behind today's episode. Stop college admissions officers dead in their tracks with this tabloid trick. Now, if you do any sort of writing in your life, you should stop what you're doing right now and pick up a book called First 100 Million by E. Haldeman Julius. Julius was a mail-order direct marketing bookseller who sold hundreds of millions of books. They called these the Little Blue Books. Now, the fascinating part of Julius's First 100 Million book comes from the testing Julius and his company did. Here's an illuminating statistic. How to Break Bad Habits sold 29,000 copies as opposed to How to Form Good Habits, which sold only 20,000. And another, Care of Skin and Hair sold 52,000 copies, yet How to Take Care of Your Mouth and Teeth sold only 8,000. Finally, what about Gaudier's Fleece of Gold? When the title was changed to The Quest for a Blonde Mistress, sales jumped from 6,000 copies to 50,000 copies. And when the title of Oscar Wilde's Pen, Pencil, and Poison was changed to The Story of a Notorious Criminal, sales more than tripled. Now, what does this have to do with you, college prep and essay writers? It's this. Think about the implications of what I just told you. In Julius's book, when we changed those titles, I didn't tell you something at the beginning. When we changed the titles of the books, it was the same content, the same author, the same color, the same everything. The only thing Julius changed was the title of the book. And when he did, it resulted in thousands of sales difference, either up or down. If you ask any book writer, copywriter, or advertiser, they'll tell you the headline or the title of any published work is responsible for 80% of the readership and response. Because think about it. If the reader doesn't get past your headline, they don't get in your content. And that means they're not going to buy. And then they're gone forever. So today's episode is going to teach you the power of the headline and what that means for your college essay. Now, the headline has one purpose: to stoke the reader's curiosity or desire to want to read the first sentence. And the question becomes, does the headline tap the right emotion to drag the reader into reading the first sentence? That is the only purpose of the headline. And if you start holding headlines to this one requirement, you will transform your headline writing. And also, you'll transform your college essay writing. Now, I learned this trick when I attended a seminar in Orlando, Florida on headline writing, and I heard a great quote about headlines, and it goes like this: seduce the heart, convince the brain. Now ask yourself this: if I was the reader, would I want to read this? Would I want to read your college essay just from reading the headline? The two primary draws from a headline come from curiosity or a direct benefit to the reader. And sometimes you get both. Remember, you aren't writing for you. You are writing for the reader. And when you write, remember, the most important radio station to tune in is WIIFM, which stands for What's in It for Me. Give the reader something worth reading, and it all starts with the headline. The headline should communicate the what's in it for me, either through curiosity, benefits to the reader, or both. Now let's look at some headline tips and formulas. Mark Ford, who I've mentioned in prior episodes, is a multimillionaire consultant, copywriter, entrepreneur, and author. And he came up with the 4 U's for a headline. Now, the 4 U's are urgent, unique, useful, and ultra-specific. Now, for a college essay, you don't necessarily need number 1, urgency, because the urgency is kind of built in for a college rep to read it if they find your title interesting. But let's talk about the other 3 U's. Unique. Is your title a cliche? Is it boring? Or is it something they've never seen and heard about before? Bill Bonner, the head of Agora, a billion-dollar research firm with some of the best writers on the planet, talks about something called the categorical imperative. And what this is, it's the brain's way of classifying and organizing incoming information. You see, the brain is bombarded with information all throughout the day. And so what it's trying to do is recognize things that it's seen before and classify it. So if you write a college essay with a boring cliche or a common title, it's going to recognize this theme and say, oh, I've seen this or read this before. I already know where this is going. And then your brain clicks off, never to return again. But if your headline stokes curiosity, a benefit, or presents information in a new way, the reader has no choice but to be pulled in to read it. Now let's talk about the second U, useful. Will the reader get something out of your essay by reading it? Will they get a lesson, a new outlook on life, or stoke a new emotion? If you can offer a benefit, solve a problem, or tell a great story with a lesson, that will make it useful. And number 3 U, ultra-specific. To do this, start by removing platitudes and generalities. The more specific you get, the more engaging, and more importantly, the more believable. If you're writing about a dog, let the reader know the dog's name, the dog's breed, and some other specific detail that ties the dog into the story. If times or dates are involved, tell the reader when. For places, tell them where. Don't just say United States. Rather, I took a trip down to Miami, Florida to a restaurant called the Clevelander. Right then and there, the readers dropped into the story in a specific location at a specific restaurant, and they can fill in their own details. Names, dates, times, places, people. Remember, get specific. Think about the following 2 statements and ask yourself which one you believe more. Here's statement 1. About 60% of people. Here's statement 2. 59.45% of adults aged 35 to 50. The first headline says about, which is an estimate. It also uses a round number, and it uses the general word people. The reader asks, what people? And for estimates, like 60%, remember, estimates have bias, and they leave room for interpretation. And if you don't supply the detail, your reader's going to, and you might not like the results that they decide. The second headline rounds to the nearest 100th decimal place and gives a specific age for a specific group of people, adults aged 35 to 50. With these headline tips and tricks that we've covered, let's talk about how to get better at writing headlines, which means you'll get better at college essay writing. Now, once you learn about headlines, what I recommend you do is start writing out the best headlines that you read. Anytime you see an article, blog post, movie, TV show, YouTube video, or something which grabs your attention, add it to your notes. Now, I build what's called a swipe file, and it's a growing list of great headlines which I keep in a Google Doc. As I find more great headlines, I add them to this swipe file. And then what I do is I go back and I handwrite out with a pencil and paper each new headline that I come across. Why am I handwriting out the headlines? Well, what this does is etch the headline skill deep into my brain by handwriting, not typing, but handwriting it out. And we've covered this before on prior episodes, but if you haven't heard those yet, the science behind this is called haptics. I covered this in 1 to 2 of our prior episodes. You see, as you handwrite out more great headlines, the skill gets etched into your brain, like a custom engraving on a trophy. Because your hand is involved in writing out the letters, your brain makes the hand-brain connection. Now here's another tip to get better at headlines and college essay titles. Study what works. To get headline inspiration, I recommend the following tabloid magazine for you, National Enquirer. Now you're probably asking, Don, why would I read National Enquirer? Tabloids? Are you kidding me? Tabloids to get better at a college essay? And the answer is yes, because the National Enquirer writers are some of the highest paid writers in the world. And while many people say, oh, I'd never read a tabloid magazine, we know from the circulation that they're liars, since the National Enquirer flies off the shelves. Now, why do they fly off the shelves? The answer, my friends, is because of the headlines. As people slide into the checkout line at the grocery store, getting ready to pay for their groceries, they can't help but turn their heads and read some of the most provocative titles and hooks ever to be written on paper. Now, these hooks and titles have to be good enough to get people to stop in the middle of the grocery line, pull out their wallet, and add this to their order. And oh, do they ever. That's why handwriting out National Enquirer headlines that jump out at you will make you an exponentially better headline writer. And this, my friends, will help you get better with your college essays. Now, another site and resource to follow for great headlines is BuzzFeed. They make some of the best clickbait articles around. So go check out their headlines, their titles, and see what jumps out at you. Cosmopolitan Magazine is another one. Check out some of their headlines in the stands at the grocery store. And finally, Reader's Digest. I recommend subscribing to their email list and studying their headlines. Finally, the last resource which you could use to see what people are actually responding to is called Buzzsumo. Buzzsumo is a software which helps you analyze content trends. You could filter by topic, and Buzzsumo shows you the articles with the highest engagement. Again, we're working off the principle I've covered in prior episodes, the 80-20 rule. 80% of the effectiveness of an article, college essay, comes from the headline. Ask yourself this: does the headline draw you in and make you want to know more and read more? And if the answer is not yes, you got to go back and continue to rewrite it until you get a headline that pulls you in. Now, let's talk about the psychology behind great headlines and college essays. The number one goal, next to curiosity, that we want to stoke is emotional appeal. To do this, we want to appeal to the lizard brain, also known as our reptilian brain. This was the first part of the brain that was formed. And there are 5 core factors that drive the reptilian brain. They are pain, fear, emotion, ego, and contrast. Now, for college essays, let's review the 5 core drivers of the lizard brain and how it will make you a better college essay writer. Number 1 is pain. Now, any story about moving away from pain or how you overcame a painful moment is catnip for college recruiters. Number 2, fear. Everybody loves a story about overcoming your fears or how you help somebody else conquer their fears. It's rooted deep within our lizard brain from the early times as a human when we fought on the plains for survival. Core driver number 3, emotion. There's an old saying, people buy an emotion and they justify it later with logic. And with colleges, they're buying you as a student. So find ways to stoke reader emotion in your college essay. Examples are moving from sadness to happiness, move from failure to triumph, move from lost to found. Remember, emotion grips the reader, gets them invested in your story, and makes you unforgettable. Here's driver number 4 of the lizard brain. People love to have their egos stroked and massaged. And if you tell a story which helps college recruiters see their own ego being boosted, all the better. People project themselves into good stories. So if you build up somebody's ego you have a great method to transfer this to the college recruiter reading your essay. And finally, and this goes back to curiosity, core driver number 5 is contrast. The lizard brain, my friends, has to make quick decisions. And this comes from our time on the plains when there was tigers and wild animals trying to kill us. And one of the things that the lizard brain checks for is familiarity, as we discussed with the categorical imperative. Our brain, as I said before, classifies things. And if it's never seen or heard something before, it hits the brakes and immediately sends the message up to the more rational part of the brain to investigate. And this sending up of the message step is powerful because contrast stokes curiosity, which makes it impossible for the lizard brain to ignore your headline. And what this means is they're going to get into your college essay. They won't discard it at the headline. This step is crucial. So now that you have the structure and the psychology behind the powerful headlines, it's time to start writing. Now, I recommend creating at least 10 headlines or titles for your college essay. As you write out more headlines, start to read them. And for every 10, 1 to 2 will generally reach out and grab you by the shirt. Now, I encourage you to show a few of your friends and family the titles. Don't tell them or show them anything else. Just show them your college essay titles. Sit back and watch their reaction. Now, when you hit a winner, people usually say, "Wow, tell me more about that," or "What's this all about?" That's how you know you're hitting the right emotions and the curiosity levers. I know we've covered a lot in this episode about college essays and capturing attention. And writing takes a lot of work. So if you want additional help with writing your college essay, my company has a service. It's a complete college prep package, including college essay consulting. Now, what you'll do is you'll start with a free session worth $250. But for our podcast listeners, this session is free. And during this free session, my team will walk you through college prep tips and tricks, including writing an irresistible college essay. Now, I'm doing this free session because the value offered to you in the free college prep session is so powerful, you may just consider moving forward and booking a complete college prep package. And if you purchase this package, you get the college essay review absolutely free. But first, I reserved a free college prep strategy session for you worth $250. Now, spots are limited, so when you hear this episode, book your spot afterwards, because these spots fill up fast. Now, to claim your free college prep strategy session worth $250, call 1-800-234-2933. That's 1-800-234-2933. And give my assistant your contact information, and we'll get you set up with the free college prep strategy session. Or you can go to cpcshow.com. That's cpcshow.com. And let's get you started on writing a powerful college essay. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next week.
That's all for this episode of College Prep Confidential. To discover how to give your student a better future by increasing financial aid, improving test scores, and reducing stress, visit our website at cpcshow.com. That's cpcshow.com.